everybody. A big question. 1 second. I promise it will. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I'm in Rhinebeck right now in Dutchess County, New York. We are outdoors and past 6 feet away, so I'll take my mask off. I'm being good. So thank you, everybody, for coming today. I appreciate it. Everybody showing up today. This is important. And one of the most important reasons why we're out here is we are actually talking about solving problems and not just adding problems. Many of you know that when there are issues, and there are a lot of them now, financial issues, personal issues that are happening throughout our entire country, and the answer is almost always the same thing, and that is add more laws. You've heard people talk. We've got a problem. We got to fix this thing. It's a problem. And then where do they always go? What do they always say? You know what we need? Legislation. You hear it constantly. And you'd ask the person, so once we have the law, is it now fixed? Well, we need legislation. But then will it fix the problem? Well, then there'll be a law against it. Wasn't there already a law against it? We need more laws. They will tell you this. But if you ask them the question, will it solve the problem? They often don't know. People want more laws because it feels like they're doing something. It feels like we're taking action. I remember a lawmaker once told me, he said, Larry, it doesn't matter if what we do is symbolic or not, as long as we do something. Not realizing that when you create a law, at the end of almost every single law is someone in a uniform with a gun who is going to put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, they're going to shoot you. So your symbolism can turn into violence. Your symbolism can destroy families and friends. So how about we don't worry about symbolism, and we don't worry about more laws and legislation, but instead we worry about actual answers. And the answers you will hear me come up with again and again and again are very similar. And that is creating an alternative to government. You might go, Larry, why do you hate government? I'm not saying I do hate. I'm not saying that. I will ask anyone here who's out here or anyone who's watching, does anybody here think monopoly is good? Anybody? Yeah, everyone's shaking their head no. No one's saying yes. No one thinks monopoly is good. What's government? Monopoly. So why in the world would we think that's a good idea? So how do you break a monopoly up? I know. Get the government into... No, that's not. No. The best way to break a monopoly up is to create an environment to where the upstart has a chance at knocking down the monopoly. What do we usually do? Well, now Facebook's a monopoly. What should we do? Let's have a bunch of legislation, heavy regulations to ensure Facebook stays a monopoly. Or we could change and create an environment to where the upstart can come up and knock Facebook down, or at least compete with Facebook. I see the same thing with every other situation we have. If government has monopoly, we're letting them make money. See, make them make money. Cheat a mask on. So yes, right. So if we allow government to create an environment to where others can step up, we can do that. Well, Larry, why don't we just end the government monopoly period? Well, here's the problem. Government is always two things. One, a monopoly, but two, a jobs program. It's always two things, a monopoly and a jobs program. You can't just get rid of those jobs and expect no backlash. You can't expect people to vote, because that just takes away jobs with nothing replacing. So what can we do? Whenever we decide to remove government in any way, shape, or form, we must always be able to add either commerce and or community. You have to add that. Remember, as we begin to add government by default, we remove community, we remove commerce. That's how it works. And now we have situations in our country where we have decades of communities who basically, as a community, forgotten. See, they agree. Every time the bell goes off, it means I'm correct. See, I'm right. They know that I'm correct. The bell goes off because I'm right. Thank you for recognizing the truth that I'm correct. So I need 12 of these because it's 12. So I now have to fill time until this is done binging. But it will. And it bings 12 times, not because it's 12, because I'm so right that it just can't stop binging because I'm so correct. See? Thank you. All right. So that's why I do things live. In any case, my point being, you have communities who have spent so much time under the boot of government they've basically forgotten how to support. As a community, they don't know how to support anymore. So their answer is always, let's find government answer. Or they have a nonprofit that is sponsored by government, which means it's still government. That's what we keep doing. But we can change this by changing the environment to not just add more laws, but to create more options for community and commerce to take advantage. More options for community to step up and to help. Remember something. When someone has a problem, whatever problem that is, emotional, financial, medical, any problem you have, the first thing they need is not a program. The first thing they need is somebody who cares. When you first get someone who cares, you can then find the help you need, but you first need somebody who cares. Can government care? No. Which is why government so rarely ever helps. What government actually does very well is it serves. It services you. It gives you what you need to survive so you can stay in your current situation, so it can keep giving you what you need to survive so you can stay in your situation, and it keeps going and going and going. Well, I am very lucky. I have somebody here today who actually wants to make real change. I have a couple of candidates here today. I'm super lucky. But I have one of them who's actually running for New York State Assembly, who is here today to talk to you about finding other answers, not just more laws, not just them, but other answers. I can bring him up right now. Please give him a hand, Mr. D. Michael.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. I don't know how I even start speaking after you. I mean, just too much information. But so one of the things that I always learned being a business owner myself was that I was always told that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
And so when you go to government, if you express to people that you are a caring person, that you do care about what's going on, that you're not there just to make new laws, I think that's the starting point. And so when I decided this year to run for assembly, one of the things that I saw that was egregious to me was that the government, New York State, was deciding to have these medical mandates. Yes. And one in particular was on the HPV virus, something that is a sexually transmitted disease. And they were talking about doing it to our 9-year-old children and forcibly giving it to them in school without parental consent. And I just said, I can't allow this to happen.
Yes.
I have 3 grandkids, all live here in the district. And so I said, I got to get involved. And so I started exploring the idea. And one day I was driving down the road, a couple of people had called me and asked me if I would run. And my wife said, you should do it, which my wife already complains I'm never home now. So for her to tell me to run for office is something strange.
Let me tell you something else.
Maybe she wants me out of the house more. I don't know. So I got involved for that. I sit locally on the town board, and I've always tried to be more of a solutions maker instead of a problems creator. And so, one of the things that I always saw is that people, now I get the noise. Okay. You're trying to shut me down, I think. Anyway, but one of the things that I've always found was that people always feel that if it's not working correctly, let's create a new law, as Larry was saying earlier. And a lot of these laws are redundant, as a conversation that we had earlier today, because they're already solved by other laws that are on the books. So if we're not working the laws that are already on the books, why are we creating more laws? And so I, part of my duties was to be involved with the zoning revision. And so one of the things I tried to do was that if I looked at the law and it was already redundant, then I wouldn't pass it. Yeah. And another thing was that there were some laws that are on the books that actually were not prevalent to today. They're not relevant today, whatever. And so I actually put in some changes to one. More people are working from home. So one of our zoning laws does not allow for someone to work out of their house in an accessory structure. They can work in the house, But if you had a garage with, let's say, a room above it, and it wasn't attached to the house, they would stop you from doing it. Why? Let's look at what are you trying to stop? Was it traffic? Was it noise? Well, we already have laws on those things. So why add in this extra penalty? Also, one of the things that I suggested was that more and more parents are now coming back. I mean, it was very common in the 50s and back in the day for parents to live with their kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's really coming back now. One of the things that we're doing for myself is that my mother-in-law is 90 years old. She can't live on her own anymore. So we want to put up a cottage on our property to allow her to have her own freedom space, but yet be close enough that we could take care of her. And so it's these common sense ideas that I think that our laws should reflect. Our government should be there to support you and encourage you to create business. New York, we have the worst financial environment, regulation wise environment, and so on and so forth. I understand there's a need for government, but government should act like almost the borders, and they should let you run on the highway. And if you get off to the side, maybe a little sound goes on, beep, 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 and it warns you before it finds you. But I find in too many instances is like they create a law, they don't tell you how to implement it so that they can come back and say, I got you. And they fine you. And you look at all the new laws that they're coming out with. Oh, this is going to provide us with so much more revenue. Well, is that really the purpose of government? Is to fine you and make revenue?
It's not.
Apparently, I must be in the wrong. So because I never thought it was. So those are some of the ideas. You can find out more of my ideas. You can go to www.dean4ny.com. Where I have several positions that I have on there. And certainly if someone can give, I'm encouraging you, whether it's $5, $100, or whatever, every little bit helps. We got an expensive campaign, buy signs, make brochures and mailers, and we could all use the extra bucks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for those of you who didn't get that, that was Dean, DEAN, the number 4ny.com, correct? Correct. Excellent. You can hit that donate button if you want to help out. But look, if you're in the New York State area, if you live in New York State, if you live in this area at all, Dutchess County, Hudson Valley, just in general, and you want to help them out, you can, right? If you can't give them the money, I hope you can. But if you can't, you can show up. He needs people to wave signs. He needs people to hang the door knockers. He needs social media warriors. All those people, he needs all of those. Thank you so much, Dean, for coming today. I really appreciate that. What's your maximum that people can give? What's your maximum? So the max you can give is $4,700. I know you were getting ready to give him $5,000. Don't do that too much. Don't get him in trouble. Go $4,700 so he doesn't get in trouble. All right, that's the max you can give. Only give that. I got people writing checks right now. I'm lying, but no, they're not writing checks right now. You guys can write checks if you want to. He'll take them, but only $4,700. So you can do that. So guys, I'm gonna say thank you so much for coming. I appreciate that. So there's something else though. What Dean mentioned was the idea of passing laws that are redundant, passing laws and getting rid of laws that stop our current environment, right? That aren't part of our current environment. And our current environment is exactly what Dean said. You have parents who are coming home so that they can be taken care of. They don't want to go to nursing homes. You have kids who are coming home, right? So many of us moved to cities in 2008 for opportunities. Well, those opportunities have gone away. So many even now kids are coming back home. Not just that, people are working from home, teaching their kids from home. So much of that's happening, and Dean's right to make the changes, make it happen. But not just in that. You've got to make changes in our economy. We have to understand that our economic situation is changing, has been changing. We've got to have something new, a change in our economy, in our mindset. And I'm very lucky I have someone here who's thinking about that. She has something called the Gold New Deal. Ooh, does that sound cool? I like how that sounds. Talking about how we're going to make things better, not just in New York State, but the entire country. She's running actually right now for Congress here in New York. You've probably seen it before. I hope so. Victoria Alexander.
So the Gold New Deal, of course, is an alternative to the Green New Deal. And while the Green New Deal comes up with a lot more legislation, the Go New Deal asks, first of all, what is government doing to create part of the problem? Because many of our solutions today many of our problems today are yesterday's solutions. And so on this theme of what government can do, the Green New Deal, some people supporting the Green New Deal says that the military needs to be more environmentally sustainable. We need green bombs or something.
Boy, like green bombs.
The Defense Department is the largest institutional polluter in the world. Not only that, but the military goes around destroying infrastructure, which then resources have to be depleted to build up those schools and hospitals again, those roads. So we end the wars. That's the first thing we do. So deal. The Green New Deal, they want to subsidize the green energy sector. Well, we're spending billions of dollars subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. Could we not do that? And so the solution is, well, you're handing money, federal money, to the fossil fuel industry. Oh, but we're going to pass a carbon tax. Well, why don't you just not give them money in the first place instead of taking a little bit from them? Daniel Donnelly said the other day, it's like paying indulgences to be able to sin, to be able to pollute. You can pay a little bit of money. Well, who's going to be able to pay the money and who will not? The largest corporations are going to be able to pollute all they want. Green New Deal says subsidize organic farms. Well, we subsidize corn for ethanol, soybeans for ethanol, which is not a very good green crop at all. It's nice. So we can stop subsidizing the corn industry. Probably a lot of hemp growers would move into that market if they weren't being paid to grow corn. Green New Deal advocates want to demolish current infrastructure that is not green infrastructure. You destroy all the embodied energy that went into creating that. So you end up actually depleting more resources to build these new green energy. Let them use up their embodied energy. Let the hydroelectric dams continue until they fall apart and then build something else. They also want to regulate the energy grids, which tends to favor the big energy corps. Yeah. They got these huge power plants that are multi-billion-dollar, that are owned by multinational corporations that take money out of the local community and send it overseas. Those big companies are the only ones that can afford to deal with the regulations. They can hire the environmental lawyers. They can deal with those things. It's much more difficult for the small energy producers to be able to negotiate all those regulations. So a lot of the solutions to the problem of pollution are helping create more pollution. So that's just one example from a libertarian on how we address climate change. My motto is decentralize the power. And that's a little bit of a spin on, make smaller government. I want to decentralize power, and I also want to acknowledge that corporations have a lot of power. Corporations are actually the private arm of government right now. Yes. There's so much money that has gone into Google and Facebook to help them develop the infrastructure that they now have a monopoly. And the government has helped create that monopoly. The most important thing that government gives us, without a doubt, is our Constitution. Our Constitution protects individuals against the majority, the mob. Free speech. The majority of people can decide tomorrow that what you say is not what they want to hear. They're afraid of what you're saying. You're dangerous, so you can't say that anymore. You can't protest against masks. You can't say masks are ineffective to stop the virus. They're going to outlaw that speech. Free speech protects speech that not everybody can agree with. And that's why we have that law. Privacy protects the individual. against a majority of people that think, oh, we don't really need privacy. We need to spy on people because I'm afraid of the virus. I'm afraid of terrorists or whatever. So government has a very, very important role, and that's the Constitution. So I want to applaud Constitution Day, which I spoke here, but it seems like nobody cares about our civil rights anymore. And let me also invite you to go to my website, donate to my campaign so I can continue to go around visiting 11 counties. I want to thank Larry Sharpe 100 times over for what he's doing for all the down ballot candidates. It would be very difficult for me to organize this kind of series on my own. I'm meeting with Larry 11 times in these 2 months, twice today, later today at Liberty Ridge. And so thank you very much. And we hope that Larry will run again in 2022. So visit my website, which is directdemocracyus.org, directdemocracyus.org. I chose that website name because even after this campaign, I'm going to continue to fight for democracy, for the people. So go there and give me a nice donation. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
And look at us go. 2 amazing candidates, both talking about the idea of how can we make this state, this nation better. Real answers, real solutions. I can't tell you how happy I'm about that. Remember, directdemocracyus.org. Did I get it right?
Yep.
Directdemocracyus.org. Check her out, what she's doing. It does matter. I want to bring what both of those people said, both Dean and Victoria, what they actually said down to a level that the average person can really get in their own heart. And that is your individual community, your individual small business, your individual job that you have at your local store or wherever you might be in your community. Think of all the rules and regulations that stop that person from being successful. Think about every one of those. Think about every time you try to do something in your town, all the inspectors that have to come by. Think of all the money you have to pay. And you might say, well, Larry, isn't it for our safety? Okay, I'll give you an example. In New York State now, they're talking about having a license to wash hair. You guys hear about that? Yes, they're talking about having a license to wash hair. I'm not joking. There's already one for braiding hair. Now, I want to ask you, please, if you could do me a favor, anyone watching, if you want to do this, can you please send me the data to all the deaths we got from hair washing? I don't remember any of them. Why? Because there are none. I want us to go back to a simple concept. Would you ask your friend to do it? Simple concept. Would you ever ask your friend to wash your hair? You might, right? Would you ever ask your friend to braid your hair? If you had enough hair, I don't. But if you have enough hair, you might. Sure. So the question becomes then, why is there a license? But Larry, I want to feel safe. I get it. So let me give you an idea. Take every single license right now that New York State has, walk it down that road. Would I ask your friend to do it? Would you ask your friend to remove your gallbladder? Probably not. Get a license for that. Fine. No worries. No worries. Get a license for that. If you would, turn every one of those licenses into a credential. Not a license, a credential. What's different? A license means if you don't get the license, you can't do it. And if you do it, you get punished. A credential says, I give you an official stamp from the government, and the government says you're good at it. Now, who decides if you're good at it? The consumers do. The consumers decide, do they value that? You might say to yourself, Larry, I only trust a credentialed hair braider. I don't know why you would do that. But say you do. Okay, no worries. Your money, your hair, only go to credentialed hair braiders. And that will be a valuable credential. But if you don't care if your person is credentialed or not, you can go to anybody. Why does that matter so much? Because how are we going to get our poorer, harder hit communities out of poverty? Entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial spirit is what will pull them out. It always does. You look at any tough immigrant community that came to our country that struggled. Entrepreneurism got them out. Look at people who've gotten themselves out of bad neighborhoods. the barrio or the ghetto or the trailer park. I came out of the South Bronx myself. Why? Because my father was a DJ. That's why. He came out to, he was actually a corrections officer who couldn't make enough money as a corrections officer, so he was DJ on the side. That's how he made enough money to get us out of the Bronx. That's how we can do it. Again, answers that both of these people talked about to solve our problems, to get us out of the situation, to help New York, to help our country. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please head on over to both of those websites. Give what you can give, of course. Help out where you can. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching.